Cub is popping off!
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scared Soldier back with another Borderlands 3 video, and in today's video we are going to be checking out Battle Bear Moze build, and we're going to be showing you how beastly this is with some gameplay, of course. So without further ado, let's talk about the gear real quick. So the gear you're going to need is a couple of weapons, but most importantly the anointments are going to be what you want to look for. Now obviously you were going to be Moze, so we're going to be going around doing our thing, but what this build is all about Iron Cub. So we want to make Iron Cub as strong as possible. So for Moze, all you really need is a plasma coil or a tizzy, and you're pretty much good to go for damage against any enemy. You don't even need a crazy skill tree to be good with these guns. These guns are already just super powerful, but the anointments you're going to want to have to better yourself in terms of damage and things like that are going to be several. So for Moze, you want while an action skill is active, weapon damage is increased by 200%. Also, consecutive hits is also very good. And lastly, for Iron Cub, you want while Iron Bear is active, rail gun damage is increased by 100%. Those are going to be the best three anointments you're going to want to be flipping between. Okay, guys? Now, moving on, for the shield, you want Plus Ultra because the Plus Ultra doubles your health and also increases Iron Cub's armor by a lot. So you definitely want the Plus Ultra to make Iron Cub as tanky as possible. Now the anointment on the shield, the one we have, is going to be completely obsolete, so try to find an anointment that can help cooldown rate if you want, but honestly we're going to show you how your cooldown rate is going to be pretty much infinite with the way we have it set up. Moving on, we have the cloning matting tracker. Now for the anointments, you can switch between two. You can have on grenade thrown because that's also going to increase your action skills damage, or you can have this one over here increasing your grenade damage by 150%, which is very, very powerful and is going to be very nice to use. Now for the artifact, what you want is Victory Rush, and then there's several roles that I suggest you guys look for. So the first one is going to be Ignite Chance. That's going to be super, super nice. You don't need it by any means, but it is nice to have if you find it. If not, just stick to things like Area of Effect is going to be very nice. Bonus incendiary damage is going to be very good, and also mag size is going to be some of the top rolls to find on your artifacts. And you can have things like Atom Bomb, Victory Rush. You can have Snowdrift to get around a little faster around the map. Some of those things are going to be the things you want to look for, and even if you want to use the Pearl, be my guest. Now moving on, you can use a couple of class mods for this. Now my favorite class mod for damage is going to be the Flare, because you get up to 100% gun damage while Iron Bear or Iron Cub is active, and of course it decreases with the fuel drain, but we have a really good skill tree setup so that the fuel drain is very minimal, and also whenever Iron Cub is finished his duration, we can get him back in right away within an instant by switching to our Eternal Flame. Now the Eternal Flame is essentially like Calm, Cool, and Collected in Zane's skill tree, whereas you freeze an enemy, you instantly get your action skill cooldown rate reset. Now this is the same thing with Moze essentially, but in a class mod form, whereas if you light an enemy on fire, then you will have your action skill duration reset. So we don't need anything related to cooldown because our class mod does it all for us. The other class mods, as an honorable mention, you can use things like the Raging Bear is also cool, but honestly just stick to the Flare, and the Eternal Flame combination is going to be your best bet. All right, so moving on to the skill tree. The skill tree is going to be very, very methodically set up, guys. A lot of things are tested, so just trust me when I talk about all this stuff here. So starting off in the Demolition Woman tree, we have the typical things like Fire in the Skagden, which is super good and also is going to help Iron Cub. Means of Destruction, we have Tor Cross Promotion, we also have Stainless Steel Bear. These are all just good things for Moze and Iron Cub. You guys know this by now. We also have Holy Holy Pin because this is going to be good with Vampire and all that stuff. Or it doesn't really matter, it's just cool when our grenades hit critical hits, why not? And then of course all the way down to Short Fuse, making Moze going to be very, very strong. So pretty much this whole tree is going to make Iron Cub stronger and Moze very strong with things like Fire in the Skagden. Now pay attention to the augments on the side, guys. You don't want to use any of these augments for Iron Cub, and because Hammer Down Protocol doesn't work very well, essentially Iron Cub is too short, and when she drops the nuke will instantly hit the ground dealing no damage to the enemies unless they're in melee range. But yeah, that's not what you want, and the rest of these things are not going to be the best things. Okay, I'm going to explain to you what it is. Now, we don't need grizzled, and we also don't need explosive punctuation because we have the internal flame, which literally resets our cooldown right away when we light an enemy on fire. And we're always going to be lighting enemies on fire because Moze has a ton of passive incendiary damage in her skill tree, so no matter what gun you're using, you're always going to be doing fire damage pretty much. Moving on to the beastly skill tree right over here, that's going to make Iron Cub super strong, is going to be these augments here with the railgun. The railgun is the only thing you want to use on your Iron Cub because it's so effective, and also the AI acts more normally than it would with some of the other augments. What I mean by that is the AI actually consistently shoots at enemies. It doesn't stop shooting for whatever reason. And also the reload time or the recharge time of the railgun is actually quite fast as well. So you're getting constant shots and very powerful shots out of it with your Iron Cub. Now, the way we have it set up is we also picked up this one right here, giving us an Iron Cub damage reduction. We have more bonus damage for Moze. We wanted to get down the tree to unlock this augment right here because the capacitive, whatever it's called over here, is amazing for mobbing. You want this one all the time when you're mobbing because it's kind of like a chain Zane setup effect, whereas if you hit a shot with this, it's going to chain enemies and absolutely obliterate them. So amazing for mobs. And if you want to destroy bosses like Wotan, anything with armor, you're going to want this one here, Corrosive Sabotage, and that is going to absolutely melt those enemies, and you're going to see that in some gameplay. Also, by the way, Experimental Munitions also increases Iron Cub's damage, and also Full Can of Whoop-Ass increases the armor recharge rate for Iron Cub. So those are the reasons why we picked up all of these skills, okay? Now, moving on to the green tree, we picked up Daka Bear because we get Iron Cub damage. And we also picked up Cloud of Lead because we're also getting more Iron Cub damage from this. And also with things like Specialist Bear, this is also going to be included for Iron Cub, to whereas we're getting 60% bonus damage for Iron Cub with Specialist Bear. So that's exactly why we went down this tree over here. And we picked up Scrappy because we are going to be switching through anointments depending on the situation. So Scrappy is going to be giving us more weapon swap speed and also gives Moze more weapon damage. So that's pretty much how this skill tree is set up. And then lastly, we do go into the purple tree somewhat because we picked up really big guns, and really big guns is going to give Iron Cub even more damage as it doesn't have enough. And we just put our last point in biofuel because, as I said, as long as we ignite enemies, what's going to happen is we're going to get health regeneration for Moze, and also Iron Bear's armor regen is going to be increased as well. So that with a Full Can of Whoop-Ass is going to be very nice and an easy way to keep up Iron Cub, alongside the fact that we have a plus ultra doubling his armor amount. He's going to be pretty much unkillable, guys. So that's pretty much it. We're going to show you some gameplay of this build in action. Smash that like button for your boy for this build, man. Battle Bear Moze is absolutely sick. So let's get right into the gameplay. Okay guys, we're going to walk through the build with you real quick, and we're going to go over some of the main features of it. So first things first, we threw on the shock version of the railgun in order to get those chains. As I mentioned earlier, those shocks act like a chain Zane. So if there's nearby enemies, what's going to happen is that the enemies are all going to be destroyed, which is really nice for mobbing, and that is one of the main features of the build that I like the most because it really helps us deal with crowds very efficiently, especially since we're not running a deathless build or anything like that. Our shields are not over 500,000 capacity and all that stuff. So having Iron Cub do all the work for us gives us a ton of survivability in a different way. Now, if you guys see with Iron Cub, he is moving really fast and the AI is not bugging out too often, and that's one of the main things I wanted to emphasize, because if you put things like the minigun or you put like Hammer Down Protocol, for example, all those things are going to make a huge difference in the AI. So make sure you just stick with the railguns and he's going to act as normal as possible. Now what you saw right there too, by the way, is we switched the Eternal Flame, and right away as we shot a couple shots at the enemy, we got Iron Cub back instantly, and we were able to go back to the flare and get all that damage right back. So we are at the Maliwan takedown, guys, with this setup, and we're pretty much running all the way to the door, and then we're going to call in our Iron Cub so he can just cause havoc. Now right now we're in a mobbing scenario, so again we're putting the shock railguns on so we can get all those shots, and Iron Cub is super accurate, guys. As you saw, he just picked off that trooper in mid-air with ease, and you see that the recharge time of each railgun shot is actually quite fast, so he can get off a lot of shots during his duration, which is very important. And as you see, the shock chain has affected me, but actually doesn't do any damage. So if there's no nearby enemies, the shock chain will hit you, and that's a good thing because that means you're going to be getting a lot of damage for individual targets, which, let's say a chain zing with a redistributor, if there's no additional enemies, the chain will not really work and not be as strong, but you act as the chain. So it's really cool. And right over here you're going to see that my Iron Cub obliterates this Kraken over here. So we're going to be moving on to the Valkyries, and we're just chilling, guys. What I wanted to show in the gameplay is how strong Iron Cub is. Obviously, I didn't want to steal all of his kills and just shoot everything with the plasma coil. That wouldn't be too fun. I wanted to really emphasize Iron Cub doing his thing. The AI acting very good, and accordingly with the railguns, and that's exactly what we're getting. So we have the last phase of the Valkyries right over here, and just look at the damage of Iron Cub. He's not missing his shots. He's picking them off one by one, and that is exactly why we wanted to go down the red tree a little more, so we can get those corrosive shots as well for armored enemies to deal the most damage. And we're going to be moving on to the bridge very shortly. Now, keep in mind, if you guys now understand Iron Cub, now going to Moze, now you have your plasma coil going crazy. You can use your Tizzy, which is extremely strong with the action skill active, dealing 200% bonus weapon damage. Plus you have your grenades if you are lucky enough to get a clothing magnet tracker that gives you 150% bonus grenade damage. On top of that, you plus Iron Cub are going to destroy everything in the game. So from this footage, you're just seeing what Iron Bear or Iron Cub can do for that matter. But imagine when you actually go ham with Moze as well, which we weren't in this gameplay just for footage purposes. But look, we're going to let Iron Cub do the work for us. We're going to sit back, relax, maybe even grab some popcorn over in the back, because Iron Cub is just doing his thing, and this is what this build was all about. So we didn't have to waste any points further in the skill tree for all this cooldown nonsense. We just have an internal flame in our back pocket. Go ahead and shoot a couple shots at an enemy, and with all the passives in Moze's skill tree that give us bonus fire damage, we can ignite enemies pretty much within a couple shots, and we have our action skill right back and ready to go for a super long duration. And pretty much the whole Wotan fight, our Iron Cub was active, so we don't have to spam the internal flame either, making it a really unfun build. But that is the build, guys. That is a super quick takedown. Iron Cub did all the work for us. He came back like a little pet. He came back to say hi to us real quick. But that's pretty much for the gameplay, guys. Try out the build. It's really fun. Some of the most fun I had in Borderlands in a while with that purple tree. And that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button. I'll catch you in the next one. It's your boy Scared Soldier signing out. Peace.